So thank you all for joining us today. And we are also live streaming this event as has become more and more the norm, so that a lot of people can see it. And we also have some of our staff have been involved in the project above us as well. My job today is a very simple one, which is just to introduce the Chair of the National Museum of Ireland, the Chair of our board, Catherine Heaney, who is going to say a few words and welcome the Minister. Catherine.
Gurmahagat Lynn, agus fóte go léir don Ord Museum. Is mór an privilege fóte chur ribh an Tara Martin, an Tara Stod Noonan, agus an Ord Aspig Martin. So fóte go léir is a callúr speisialta an seoin ús mar seo an céin Tom I Tréimseacóga ina bhfuil taspóntas nua again. So is an speisialta. The exhibition itself, and just kind of having a look through it earlier with Matt, I think it's very grounding, and it's very grounding for the time we're living in now. It's a great story of human endeavour, human footprint through hundreds of years, and it tells us something that even though we feel there's a lot of chaos around us and a lot of uncertainty, actually life goes on, and we leave our footprint. And we leave something behind for others to pick up and reflect on. And I think what's really important about this exhibition, and I'm so pleased that we have two ministers with us, one, I suppose, from Culture, the Minister Martin, and then Minister Noonan representing the Heritage Portfolio, because this is, I think, a real fusion of what is cultural heritage. It's the tangible and the intangible. And it's just so very nice that we're able to come in here, reflect on the objects, but also think about the place and how that gives us comfort and soothness in this kind of time, I suppose, of great unsettlement. And I was saying to the Archbishop earlier that, St. Kevin knew what he was on about when he arrived over in Glendalough, because he found this very special place that, houses hundreds of years of different footprints and gives us something, I think, to reflect and be hopeful about for the future. I just want to pay tribute to the staff of the museum here, first of all, for the work around the exhibition, so to Maeve and to Matt and all of the team. But overall, I want to say thank you to all of the staff across all of our sites for opening our museums back in June at pretty short notice and doing a really good job. I've been doing something of a busman's holiday over the summer and visiting all of the museum sites of the National Museum here, over in Collins Barracks, the Museum of Natural History, and over in Turlough Park, as well as other cultural institutions. And out of all the places that I've been, these are safe places. They're places where you can reflect and find a bit of comfort. So as long as we remain open, I think it's a good and safe place for people to be. I also want to pay tribute to my board, actually, none of whom are here. They've all dutifully stayed away, but for their leadership and support as well over the past 6 months, because it's been tricky. We've had to kind of change our agenda, sometimes be on the phone at all kinds of times with all kinds of issues arising and debating and discussing and deciding what's best. But principally because I suppose we made sort of a big shift in terms of our priorities. And we made it very clear that how we organise and open ourselves during this time of COVID will be around prioritising our public service duty. So that is to really prioritise engagement with groups who probably will be most disadvantaged as a result of COVID. So children who suffered most from not being able to take part in education. So primarily children in disadvantaged communities. Those communities, I suppose, who are in confined and difficult spaces, that we are going to reach out to them more than we normally would. We're without the visitor volume, so we're shifting our resources to engaging with those people who are more on the margins, and hopefully that will prevail. And I want to thank the department, the Minister in particular, for helping us to open up safely and to remain open for as long as we can, and indeed to thank the OPW for their support and work, because, there's this slogan, about we're in this together. Well, we're in everything together is the reality, and we can't do things without each other. So without further ado, I want to welcome Minister Martin. I think the busiest minister. I think she's got about 25% of cabinet responsibilities, but it's a real sign, and I suppose a real gift to us, that you can attend this museum. It's your second time in a short space, and I think it sends a very positive signal to the cultural community that we have a leader at Cabinet who is interested and deeply cares about the work we do and the impact that we can have on society at large. So thank you, Minister, and welcome.
Gerg Magat, ard aspect Martin, ara Cahirlach Sturho agus Gina Usla, Ta an officer with Ibergujip and Shahan News says, Fusing Shandaliak, the Kunan Taspantas, fear alling Shah Hiola, go Hithagul. Archbishop Martin, Minister, Chair, Director, ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to be with you all here today in the Museum of Archaeology to officially launch the exhibition Glendalough, Power, Prayer and Pilgrimage, featuring a collection of 24 artefacts discovered many years ago, which have never been seen in public before. These personal and ecclesiastical objects span 1,200 years and tell the story of Glendalough, one of Ireland's best-known medieval monastic sites in the Wicklow Mountains. Glendalough was a place of contrasts, a place where pilgrims and clerics sought both solitude and community. This exhibition focuses on the diverse and exciting ways in which the National Museum of Ireland cares for our rich portable heritage. For example, one of the items on display here, a worn but well-made 10th century woman's shoe found by a hill walker, preserved in a Glendalough bog for 1,000 years, was reported to the NMI. It was carefully conserved, researched, and radiocarbon dated, and shows a glimpse of a moment in the life of a pilgrim lost to history. The NMI investigates and researches hundreds of reports of archaeological objects each year, and the role of citizens in these discoveries allows researchers, curators, and local communities to tell stories of their past. We are extremely grateful to the marvellous teams who carry out this amazing work that allows us experience and reflect on items from our past. Charred cereal grains and wood from these and other excavations in the valley tell the story of how the beautiful landscape we see today has changed radically over time and the profound impact humans have had on their environment. Plant remains like these are carefully stored and form part of important discoveries by scientific researchers with new techniques never envisaged by their collectors. The museum cares for a rich legacy of objects, which they received from institutions such as the Royal Irish Academy in the 19th century. For example, a plaster cast of an important stone carving from Glendalough, showing an abbot and a bishop with a bell and crozier, was commissioned by Sir William Wilde in the 1870s. It uniquely preserved aspects of the sculpture from important buildings in Glendalough in a way which not surpassed until the use of laser scanning in the late 20th century by the Discovery Programme at the site. Careful conservation and care of this and other plaster casts provide a unique record of the work of antiquarians. Thanks again to the NMI for looking after these artefacts and providing us with a wider understanding of their meaning by connecting them with the landscape they came from. Given the strange times we live in, their role and that of the National Cultural Institutes is essential, now more than ever. As a nation, we live our lives, we create, and where possible, we preserve those creations. And I want to say that I, as Minister for Culture and Arts, I am keen to ensure that if this country is to preserve culture like here today, that we must continue creating it during these challenging days. Thousands of visitors travel to Glendalough each year, and I would encourage people to visit this exciting exhibition in the Archaeology Museum to get a further insight into such a significant part of our history. Our cultural institutions, as custodians of our history and culture, plays such an important part in telling our story and allowing us to experience the stories of our ancestors. I also wish to acknowledge the role of the museum and the other cultural institutions during the pandemic. They have allowed all of us to continue to access and enjoy their tours and exhibitions. My department has continued to support the cultural institutions, recognising the important value of culture and creativity to each individual and society, especially during these COVID-19 times. It is always a pleasure to visit the museum, and I was delighted to experience the superb National Collection here in the Archaeology Museum when I recently attended the reopening in July. It is an absolute pleasure to be back here again today to launch the Glendalough Power, Prayer and Pilgrimage exhibition. I wish to thank the management and staff at the museum for their work in presenting such a wonderful exhibition. These exhibitions are invaluable in increasing our knowledge and understanding of Irish history. Finally, I would like to thank Ms. Catherine Heaney, Chair, Ms. Lynn Scarf, Director, and the management and staff of the museum for their invitation to be here with you all today and for their continuous commitment, dedication and flexibility during these unprecedented, challenging COVID-19 times. I look forward to coming back here again in the future. Gurb Míle Maith.
Minister, and don't worry, it won't be the last invitation, and we've lots more sites, so we'll welcome you on a number of occasions, I hope. And I want to now invite Minister for State Noonan to address us. And again, just to emphasise, I think, the importance of heritage and culture side by side, and some of the important things that are coming up, like we just discussed when we were having a look at the objects, you know, the importance of the forthcoming legislation around monuments and how maybe that can be used to educate the public about the importance of our objects and how we need to guard and safeguard our sort of national interest in that sense. So we'll be excited to work with you as well, Minister Noonan, and wish you well as well in your endeavours. So please join us.
Gur Magat, Archbishop Martin Taravartan, Coherlig is a denúsles more on honor is Corsi Ahis, the Ansholiv, Sen Irs Malan, Shan Daliakta, Egonocod, Special Tagus to walk the shop. Archbishop Martin, Minister Martin, Chair and invited guests, I am honoured and delighted to be with you here in the Museum of Archaeology on this special and important occasion. I didn't realise, having the tour yesterday with Matt, that we actually grew up not too far from each other in Kilkenny, and that both of our sons were almost responsible for burning down a 17th century Tudor house at a wedding, but we will say no more about that. There are a few places better to illustrate the beautiful intertwining of and different facets of heritage than Glendalough. It is here in one of the most picturesque valleys in the country that the wonder of our natural heritage and Ireland's rich ecclesiastical history come together in the story of St. Kevin and his love of nature. Following a visit to Rome, we are told that St. Kevin brought some of the city's wondrous earth back. Glendalough became known as a city of angels for Western Europe's Rome, an association that has led to it being a jewel in Ireland's heritage estate and indeed the very heart of Ireland's identity. In the 11th century, Murroch Uvrian, King of Munster, set about establishing Glendalough as an ecclesiastical rival to Dublin. While that strategy was in itself short-lived, it was the construction boom enacted as part of it which bequeathed us the remains of this wonderful monastic city. As a key gateway to the Wicklow National Park, the remains of Glendalough are a monument to the rich ties that formed our people and a beacon of hope for their endurance and resilience. The ruins of Glendalough speak to us of our obligations to protect our heritage, to promote it, and to make it accessible to all, so that this inheritance may continue to enrich our lives. Glendalough laid the foundations of the very first heritage laws enacted 150 years ago to ensure the protection of ancient ruins. Our colleagues in the Office of Public Works and across the National Monument Service and National Parks and Wildlife Service continue to work tirelessly with the community and the local authority to protect and promote the heritage and landscape of Glendalough. Today I pay tribute to our National Museum colleagues for their critical role in ensuring the protection of Ireland's heritage and for putting together this beautiful exhibition. In bringing to light objects not previously on display, the story of Glendalough and those who lived, who travelled there is told like never before. Indeed, we should note also the wonderful conservation work that has taken place in the exhibition space itself, on the door casings and surrounds and on the mosaic floor. It sets a standard, in my view, for the work ahead with the rest of this great building. I commend the Museum for its work over the last challenging months in compiling this new chapter in the story of Glendalough and ensuring that its ancient legacy endures as we seek ever to improve our protection and promotion of heritage for the well-being of all. I am deeply impressed by the way our museums and cultural institutions have responded to the pandemic, the online content created, new ways of engaging people, and in how they opened the doors again in recent weeks. I also wish to acknowledge Michael McDonough and his team at the archaeology section of the National Monument Service for their fantastic work. Our understanding of the everyday helps in the telling of the extraordinary, and Glendalough is nothing less than that. Go Mila Margaret.
Lastly, I suppose for my part in any case, I'd like to welcome Archbishop Martin, and I think one of the important parts of you being here today is the significance of your donation of the bell to the museum. And earlier I heard Matt on Morning Ireland talking about the various hill walkers who gave the shoe or who gave this or who gave that as people, discover things and know where to go, that they know that the museum is the home for these things and not any online trading outfit or whatever. So I think it's with great example that you come here, and it's more than just another artefact for the museum, but it's a leadership that I think is deeply appreciated. And we very much welcome your presence and thank you again for the kind donation. So we welcome the Archbishop.
Dear friends, I'm very pleased that the Knocker Temple handbell, which had come into the possession of the Archbishop of Dublin some decades ago, that it now has its rightful place in the Glendalough-related antiquities of the National Museum of Ireland as part of this exhibition. And I'm stunned at the way you've brought it back to new life. It's really an exceptional work. I want to tell a story. Yesterday, I met with a group of women from the north inner city of Dublin. They formed, over the years, a solidarity group for women who've lost children through drug abuse. All too often people simply think that their plight is just like anybody else who loses a child. But it's not the case. Quite often their children had been caught up in drug abuse when they were very young, just delivering drugs. The women may have lost more than one child. Very often they inherit the drug debts that their children had acquired. And these mothers are ruthlessly pursued until the debt is repaid. At times, they're not able even to pay for a funeral. Over the years, I've been able to provide modest funding for the group. And one of the needs, they said, they need respite. They need to have the opportunity to get away from the unrelenting harshness of their life. And I asked, where do they like best for respite? And I got the immediate answer, Glendalough. I would never have thought of it. But these women, living in the harshness of making ends meet and coping with grief, found that coming, even for a short visit, the silence and the beauty of Glendalough gave them just what they wanted. I would never have imagined that myself. I tell this story to recall that the peace and prayerfulness and physical beauty of Glendalough that this exhibition documents historically is still a place where prayer, silence and pilgrimage can be a life-saving moment of respite and rest and peace for a group of perhaps the forgotten troubled women of our city, and how many others. I hope that this exhibition will attract many people to Glendalough, but I also say Glendalough is unique. We have to ensure that in developing its potential in the future, we never lose its originality, peace, prayerfulness, and refreshing silence. I thank you.
Ministers, Archbishop, Chair, Director and esteemed colleagues, I'm thrilled to represent the Irish Antiquities Division of the National Museum of Ireland at the opening of our exhibition, Glendalough, Power, Prayer and Pilgrimage. The objects and stories shown here for the first time are exhibited as a consequence of individual finders, archaeological excavators, researchers and donors. This is exemplified by the generous donation of the Knocker Temple handbell by the Archbishop, to whom we have to extend a huge thank you. From initial presentation of the concept to exhibition opening, the Museum Executive Director Lynn Scarf and Audrey Whitty, Head of Collections, and Aoife Hurley, Head of Operations, were very supportive of the exhibition. The support, guidance and knowledge of the Keeper of Irish Antiquities, Maeve Sikora, was invaluable from the outset, and I was privileged to curate the exhibition as part of her team. Our exhibition is the culmination of efforts by a wide range of National Museum staff, many of whom can't attend because of restrictions in numbers, whom I wish to thank, every one of them. I would like to extend a special acknowledgement to the conservation team, to Carol Smith, Nives Fernandez and Ellen McKeever, the design team, Yvonne Doherty and Michael Heffernan, and master mount makers and fitters, Joe and Denise Byrne, JDB Design. They have all made the objects and graphics shine. I'd like to highlight the work of the education team in archaeology, led by Siobhan Pearce, who are engaged in producing innovative videos around the exhibition. Beautiful artefact images were shot by Brian Rutledge and Peter Maloney, organised and edited by Valerie Downing and Richard Vineact. The editing and installation of the wonderful introductory video was organised by Black Box AV through David McKenna and Gavin Woodruff from IT. The staff of the Art and Industry Division kindly provided coins and ceramics from collections in their care through Keeper Alex Ward. The modification and preparation of the exhibition space was smoothly organised by facilities on the ground. Greg, and I'd like to thank in particular Greg Kelly, Declan O'Reilly, Olivia Merriman, and each of the VSOs whose names are too many to mention. A big thank you is due to the Office of Public Works, in particular Ben Fay, who directed the in-gallery work, and Howard Whelan, who indulged us as we painstakingly adjusted the lighting. We're indebted to the marketing team, Anne Daly, Maureen Gall and Brian Houlihan, who have ably promoted the exhibition and internet content, which will expand in the coming weeks. I'm very grateful to my colleagues in Irish Antiquities who've taken on extra workloads, edited text panels, and have been very encouraging throughout. I'd like to thank the cleaning staff, especially Kathy, Louise and Ely, who have made the exhibition look great. Thanks so much to them. My own interest in Glendalough stems from having the privilege of working on a series of innovative research and community excavations with my colleagues in the School of Archaeology, University College Dublin, the College of Law and Social Science. Enormous thanks goes to the UCD team led by Professor Graham Warren, Conor McDermott, who along with Dr. Muriel McClatchy provided many of the objects and great assistance to the exhibition, and continue to undertake remarkable work in the valley. The beautiful aerial drone footage of the valley was shot by John Lawler, National Monument Service, and kindly facilitated by Chief Archaeologist Michael McDonough and Office of Public Works Architect Sinead Gargan. The photographic unit, particularly Tony Roach in the National Monument Service, graciously provided access to their beautiful archive of images. Our colleagues in the Discovery programme, particularly Anthony Corns, kindly provided re-rendered versions of the 3D models of the buildings at Glendalough and contributed towards the photography of objects. Many researchers contributed to the information that are presented in the exhibition, not least Ryan Lafline, who along with Dr. Adele Vernock provided the title Oscuelga, as well as valuable reports on artefacts. We're grateful to Cormac Burke, whose fantastic forthcoming National Museum of Ireland book on early Irish bells details the Glendalough and Knocker Temple bells. And the exhibition draws on research by many scholars such as John Nichol, Paul Stevens, Claire McCutcheon, Colm Horan, Michael Kenny, and many others. I'd like to thank all the institutions who provided copyright images for us to use, often without charge. Claire Rowland provided superb Irish translations, while the beautiful medieval hymn to St. Lawrence O'Toole accompanying the exhibition was produced by Heritage Music Productions and performed by Scola Hiberniae. I was particularly delighted by the support of the Glendalough Heritage Forum, an innovative partnership of state services, community volunteers and archaeologists, and also through Wicklow County Council through their Heritage Officer, Deirdre Byrne. I'd like to thank you all for coming and invite you to enjoy our exhibition. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt, and congratulations again. I think, it is such a huge thrill to be able to launch this exhibition. Like I said at the outset, at almost such a sort of timely time because of the story it tells and the impact it has for everybody. So I'm really hoping, that even if we have to close for a short time soon, that we'll reopen again and people will come to both Glendalough and the museum, in fact, because sometimes I find Glendalough can be overpowering, when there's busloads of people or whatever, but I love, to take a walk on Spink. It's one of my favourite walks, actually, in Wicklow in the depths of winter when there is nobody around. And as we were just discussing before we came in here, the young man or the teenager who won the Waymouth Prize last week was speaking about him sitting on a bench in Glendalough just on his last paragraph, the last paragraph of the book, and how he was just thinking about the spirit of St. Kevin. He could feel the spirit, and then suddenly he realised his family were calling him. It is a place of entrapment, a place of beauty, a place of contemplation and spirituality, and I think that this allows us to connect more with it. So for those women, Archbishop, who need that reprieve, as long as we're open, this is a place of comfort, and I hope you can communicate to them that they can find it here, and we would welcome them here. So just to thank everybody again for coming. There's tea and coffee inside. I don't know how you're going to drink it to your mask, but nonetheless, you can try. It's another human endeavour we're all getting used to. So, Gur Míle Maith Agaibh agus Fáilte Arís.